everyone, I'm Anastasia. I'm a security operations manager at Jabber, and I've spent most of my career working in SOCs and security operations. Today, I want to talk about something that have been on my mind for quite a long time, and not just because I read about it, but because I've made these mistakes myself, and I watched experienced people, smart and experienced people, make them too. Most of you probably have heard about the Target breach back in 2013. It was one of the biggest data breaches in retail history, with 40 million credit card records compromised. What a lot of people don't know, they had a tool called FireEye, and FireEye did exactly what it was supposed to do. It triggered the alert, it detected the malware, it showed that the company was compromised, it showed the intrusion, but nobody acted on it. And it wasn't because the team lacked skills or they didn't have enough tools. The alerts just got lost, simply because there were too many of them. And it looked like any other everyday common alerts that they got. Somewhere along the way, human judgment stepped in, but it went in the wrong direction. That gap between getting an alert and making a decision is what I want to talk about today. Because it's not about the tooling, it's about us. And honestly, I think we don't talk about it nearly enough. I want to start with an example that I'm sure will feel familiar to many of you. Have you ever had to explain to a colleague why they need to lock their laptop when stepping away from their desk? And I'm not talking about working at an airport or a coffee shop. I'm talking about working from the office, surrounded by people they worked with for years. And what's interesting, the response is never really a pushback. It's more like a confusion. They keep asking questions like, oh, we work for the same company, we all signed the same NDA, like, what's the harm? And to be fair, that confusion makes sense. Your brain doesn't naturally see someone you worked with, someone you grab coffee with every morning as a security risk. But here's what's actually happening in that moment. That person has built a mental model of where threats come from. In their mind, threats come from the outside. Colleagues are safe, and the office is a trusted space. So when you ask them to lock their laptops, to lock their screens, the question doesn't make sense to them because the threat you are talking about doesn't exist in their mental model. But that model is missing a few key facts. People have different access levels. HR can see salaries, which is confidential even from coworkers. Cleaners come and go, contractors are passing by, visitors just come through, and someone could easily see something they shouldn't without meaning any harm at all. That's a confirmation bias. You build a picture of how things work, and then your brain only looks for things that fit that picture. Anything else just gets ignored. And when you're running a security investigation, that habit becomes really dangerous. Let me share something that happened in an investigation I was part of. A security alert came in for a device, triggering like possible malware. An analyst started looking into it and found that the user had downloaded a PDF file. The file name matched a very specific niche medical software that the company actually used that software. So he recognized the name immediately. He could instantly picture a scenario when user was Googling a software instruction and downloading a useful, helpful guide. So everything made sense. So he closed the alert, flagging as a false positive. A couple of hours later, a second alert fires on the same device. This time, it was a malicious script. Well, it was suspicious at that time. It was a suspicious script trying to run on startup. So the realization wasn't sudden. We were working through the second alert, trying to piece together what had happened, And then the reality came in, and then it hit us. So we went back to that first file. And it wasn't a PDF. It had .pdf typed there in the file name, but it wasn't executable. Someone had custom built that file to look exactly like documentation for that specific software. The user had clicked the search result that looked totally real. It was something you wouldn't think twice about. What happened in that investigation is that the file name created an anchor. Once that anchor was set in the analyst's mind, he interpreted everything else through it. So the user behavior fit, the software matched, the industry context matched. His conclusion made total sense within the frame he was looking through. But the anchor was set even before he started the real work. The one question that never got asked was, why did the security tool flag the alert, the file, in the first place? If we had started there, everything would have changed. But the question never even came up. And what really sticks with me is that malicious file wasn't designed to trick a security analyst. It was designed to trick a regular user. The user that was just looking for the software instructions. That's who the attacker was targeting. But the same technique that tricked the regular user tricked the security analyst. The cognitive bias ran so deep that a trained security professional was caught by social engineering that wasn't even aimed at them. And for a few hours, it worked on both of them. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. So we have AI tools now. Surely that solves it. Having a machine process data objectively must remove this human bias from the equation. I used to think though too, but let me complicate that a bit. Let me share another example. So we received an abuse notification from AWS. It had the official logo, the official format stating that our account had triggered their detection systems. So naturally, we started investigating. What did we do? What service caused it? Was someone using our infrastructure? Were we compromised? So we spent hours going through logs, checking services, trying to find the source of the alert, until we decided to just contact AWS support directly. They told us to just ignore it. It was a bug on their side, just a false positive. Hours of work built entirely on one assumption that we never questioned, that the alert was correct by default. We questioned ourselves, we questioned our infrastructure, but we never once questioned the system, the alert itself. That is automation bias. And we see it everywhere. SIEM scores, threat intelligence feeds, vulnerability reports. We treat automated output like it's correct by default. We question our teams, we question our networks, but we almost never think to question the alert or the tool. Now, when you add AI to the mix, it gets even trickier. Because AI has this specific quality that makes automation bias even more dangerous. It's designed to be agreeable. And what I mean by that is, if you approach an AI with a theory, it's going to confirm that theory. It's going to help you build it. It will find the evidence that will fit your idea and frame the results around that idea. And it's not trying to lie to you, it's just trying to be helpful. And by being helpful, it is being agreeable. And I've seen this play out in really uncomfortable ways on teams. Someone will take an AI summary and use it to completely shut down a colleague's opinion. Not because they thought it through, but just because, oh, AI said so. And arguing against that is genuinely harder than disagreeing with a person, because it seems like you arguing against objectivity. And it affects the relationship. And it affects how teams communicate. That's AI anchoring. So whatever the tool tells you, first becomes the frame everything else gets through. And because it comes from the system that feels highly authoritative, the anchor is harder to break than the human one. And then there's a hallucination, which I think people underestimate in a security context. I've seen AI recommend a remediation step with specific commands, specific syntax, and the command didn't actually exist. And when you try to push back on it, it doesn't say, oh, sorry, I made that up. It says, oh, you probably have an older version of the software. So it defended hallucination with another hallucination. In the real incident, under time pressure, if you're not confident enough to push back, you'll follow that command. You'll spend at least half an hour looking for a version problem that was not even the issue. And I want to be clear, I love automation. I use AI in my own day-to-day work. It's an incredible copilot, but it's just a terrible captain. The longer-term problem is de-skilling. When you stop forming your own ideas, your own theories, and start just reading AI summaries, the analytical muscle stops getting used. And eventually, you lose the ability to recognize when the AI is getting something wrong. You trust the tool more, but you are less equipped to catch its own mistakes. Investigation is a craft. It's like muscle memory. Think about how you navigate driving now. We used to have that one route, maybe to the friend's house or to the office, that we used to know by heart. Then we started using a GPS, and not because we were lost, but it just felt easier. It gave us traffic updates, it felt faster. But what happens when your phone glitches or you lose service in a tunnel? Suddenly, you realize you don't actually know where you are, you just lost. And you've been following the little blue line for so long that you stopped looking at the landmarks. You stopped reading the actual road signs. That is actually what's happening in the SOC. AI is our GPS. It's fantastic at showing us a clear path through a mountain of logs, but the cost of speed is that we are losing our internal map of infrastructure. We are following the blue line of AI summary, and in doing so, we are losing the ability to navigate a crisis when the tool gets it wrong, or when the threat actor decides to change the road signs. We feel like we're moving faster, but we're actually becoming more fragile. If you don't look up from the screen to double check the landmarks, you're not navigating anymore, you're just following. And in security, blindly following is the fastest way to hit a dead end. So what do we do with all this? I'd like to give you 3 levels, something to start with yourself, something at the team level, and something bigger. Starting with yourself. Name your hypothesis out loud. Say it to your monitor, tell it to a colleague, talk to a rubber duck on your desk. And I'm not joking about the rubber duck. Developers have been doing this for decades. The simple act of explaining your theory out loud helps you to hear the theory, helps you to see and to hear the weaknesses and gaps you wouldn't see if the thoughts stayed in your head. Also, question the source of the alert, not just only the alert itself. Before you spend hours trying to figure out what went wrong on your network, take a second to ask if the tool raising the alarm is actually correct. And when you do use AI, make it argue with you. Don't ask it to confirm your theory, ask it to challenge it. Say something like, I'm investigating this alert, act as a skeptical lead investigator, and tell me 3 things that I'm getting incorrectly. The tool is agreeable by default, so we have to design the disagreement into the prompt. At the team level, don't investigate complex cases alone. Bring in the second pair of eyes somewhere midway investigations, not at the very end. That is one of the single best ways to spot an anchor before it locks in. And run tabletop exercises. Have hypothetical conversation. Talk through scenarios that haven't happened yet. I know some people may worry that it feels like a waste of time, but it isn't. That's where you build the instincts that protect you when a real incident hits. Then there's the bigger thing, culture. We need to move toward a right-to-error environment. In most SOCs, security operations centers, there's this unspoken rule to be perfect, to be fast, to never make mistakes when you close in an alert. But that pressure is exactly what feeds bias. If you're afraid of being wrong, you'll never admit when you're stuck or when investigation feels off. We need to build a trust-based culture when reporting a mistake isn't looked at as a failure. It looked at as a contribution. Instead of asking who messed up this ticket, we should be asking what part of our process made this bias to take over. Research shows that just simply being aware that the cognitive bias exists reduces its effect by 29%, simply by knowing about it, which means that everything we've talked about today is already working. The best investigators I've known, they're not immune to bias. Nobody is. They're simply people who know how the brain can trick them, and they build habits around it, and they build space on their team to talk about it openly when it happens. And I don't want us to work without AI. I want us to work better with AI. Because at the end of the day, a tool can flag the threat, but only a human can truly understand it. We invest so much time and money in this industry trying to understand how threat actors think, how they move, what they exploit. And I really think we should put that exact amount of effort and energy into understanding how we think, how we operate, and how we make critical decisions when things are moving fast and the stakes are high. Because honestly, I think that matters just as much. I'm going to leave my LinkedIn right there, but also I'll be right here for the rest of the conference, so come say hi, and thank you.